Welcome back to another Toyota video. Today I'm working on my 1995 Toyota Land Cruiser. I'm going to be replacing my rear brake lines. These are the brake lines from the calipers to the main hard line. They're just old, they're old, and I figure why not replace them. So these are the part number from Toyota. I got these off of partsq.com. That's where I get all my OEM parts, not affiliated with them, not sponsored by them or anything like that. I don't recall what the price runs, but I think they're about 25 bucks a piece, which is not bad at all. If you can't get them online or you don't want to order them, I'm pretty sure you can take it to some kind of hose rubber place in your town and they can make it custom size. But why not get it from Toyota? So here are the part number: 90947-02615. This is the driver's side, left side. 02614 is the passenger side. So let's go ahead and replace these. I'm gonna go ahead and replace them, and then I'm gonna put the old one back in the bags, tape it up, keep them for spares. You never know, they might come in handy. Here I am under my 1995 Toyota Land Cruiser. This is the passenger. Ideally, you want to do this with the vehicle taken off. It'll be much more easier to access, but since I don't really have the room right now, my vehicle is lifted on 38-inch tires, so I do have a lot of headroom. There's 3 rubber main brake lines. This is a rubber hose, and when you lift your vehicle, you need to make sure you extend this line because this is what connects the axle to the body. And this one here is a custom made size. I believe this one is about 4 inches or 6 inches longer than the stock size. I had this one made locally, and then it connects to these hard lines that goes to that hose that goes from the hard line to the caliper. You can see, so these are the one that we're replacing today. And you can see on the passenger side, same thing. That wetness that you're seeing, that's just PV blaster. I just got done spraying some of that so that I can break it loose evenly. Keep in mind that my Land Cruiser here, I have done the ABS delete. You can see the ABS has been deleted, and you can see up here I have the LSPV deleted, which I made a video about that. So if you guys want to do that, check, just search through my channel and you guys can find those videos. So first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna break this hard line. This is a 10 mil nut. You want to use a flange wrench like this, or else you're gonna have the risk of stripping it. So let's go ahead and try to break this nut real quick, or this line. Oh, it's pretty tight. Ever since I own this rig, I've never done replacing it to this. So it's pretty tight in there, but I got it out. All right, we got brake fluid coming out now, so I'm just gonna go ahead and tighten it back up just a little bit. Since I broke the tension, it's good now. I can do it later with just a regular wrench. So I'm just gonna go ahead and tighten it back up. And then there's a little clip right here. This clip right here is what holds this line in place, and you gotta pop that clip out, and that's the reason why I spray the PV blaster, because that clip can get pretty tricky. Yikes. There we go. So it's a clip. It's a clip that holds the brake line, and if yours is rusty, you need to put some blaster on it. Man, maybe this was easier if I had the if I did the other way where I took the wheels out. But I can get it though. There we go, almost done. There we go. So it's this type of clip right here. Very common on all brake pads or brake lines. Make sure when you take this out, clean it out, guys. Clean it, dry it, and then put some anti-seize on that. So now the line's gonna want to move by itself. It should. Let me see. Something's still stuck on it. Nothing like that. Some reason this hard line here is supposed to move when you take out that clip, but it's not coming out of this mounting bracket. I'm just gonna go ahead and unbolt this line here. A lot of the brake fluid is gonna come out, but I'm not worried about it because I'm gonna bleed it anyways. So I want to see how it is. I think there's contaminants inside this line here, and I think that's the reason why it's been causing my rear caliper to seize up. It seized up last week, and I just put a new brake caliper on it, and then it also seized up last fall season during the hunting season. So that's the reason why I'm changing these lines, just to refresh my whole brake system in the rear over here. So this hard line, the rubber hose here is not moving at all. It's supposed to move, since it's supposed to move when you take out that bracket, but it's not moving at all, so I'm not sure what's going on here. Alright, so I got it out. It was just super seized in there. So there's a hole right here where it sits in, and it was just so set in there really nice and tight. I just took my vice grip right here and just kind of shook it, and then finally came out. So now that this is out, you can go ahead and take out the banjo bolt on the caliper, and that one is pretty easy to do. And once I do that, I'm going to clean everything up, and then we'll go ahead and start installing it. When you install it, you want to make sure you connect this side over here first, and then connect the caliper. Or, actually no, you can connect the caliper side first, and then connect the hard line to the line. So let me do that real quick. The caliper bolt, the one that I have, is a every size is different, so your vehicle might be different, but for my caliper bolt, the banjo bolt, it's a 7/16. It's not metric, so, and you gotta be careful because there is 2 banjo bolt washers. There's 2 copper washers on that banjo bolt, and you want to make sure you reuse that, or else you're gonna have a leak. So there it is. Some people might argue with me that you're supposed to put new washers, but for this case, guys, it's not a big deal. And we got lots of brake fluid coming out. So here's the old one right here, and these are the 2 copper washers that I've told you guys about. Make sure you use that. And this is the old one. We'll go ahead and save that for spare, like I said. So let me go ahead and clean this up real quick, and then we're gonna put the new one in. I did went ahead and compare my new brake line, and it is the same one, so make sure it's the same one. Same fitting, same size. Like I said, there is a driver and a passenger side, but other than that, just make sure you have the right one. Okay, so take your new one. You guys can't really see it. Take your new one, make sure there's a washer, and then on the other side, there's another washer like that. And then we'll go ahead and bolt that in. This piece right here sits on the caliper. There's a little spot for it where it sits in, so make sure you have it sit in. And I'm gonna go ahead and do it by hand first. It's a bit tricky, a little tricky doing it in this tight spot, but it's doable. If you got more patience, more time, definitely I recommend taking the tire off and putting on jacks. It would be easier to do it, but I'm gonna do it this way because I'm in my garage right now and I don't really want to move anything. Alright, so that side's good. So let me go ahead and tighten the banjo bolt. I don't know what the torque spec is, but I'm just gonna make it snug. Tighten the banjo bolt, and then after that, we'll go ahead and connect the hard line to the new line. And we'll have some new brake hose. This brake hose is the original one, 30 plus years old, 1995. Alright, so that's nice and snug. And now this piece right here goes in like that, and there's a place for it to sit on there. And it sits in really nice and square because it's like a little hexagon in there. So make sure you have it like that. Clean it up first. Make sure it's nice and clean. Yeah, you see that? Okay, and then that goes in like that. And then, be very careful. You don't want to cross thread it. You don't want to cross thread it. It's kind of difficult when you gotta do it so hold it at different angles. And then you got all this fluid coming out at you. You can also put that clip in here right now. That clip that holds the brake line, so that you don't have to hold it up here. But I didn't clean that yet. I wanna wire brush it real quick. So let me tighten this real quick. I'm gonna go wire brush that clip and then put some anti-seize on it before I shove that back in there. But this hard line is good to go. It's snug in there. It's snug right now. Got a little anti-seize on this little retainer clip. just for future reference. So for future use, it doesn't get seized up again. Go ahead and shove that back in there. There's a place for it. Sometimes you might have to bend this little clip back into a particular position. There it goes, it's in there. Just want to adjust it. This clip is very important. You need to put this clip back, or else this line can pop out of that that plate, the holding plate, and that's what keeps it in there. So it looks good. Just needs a little bit more. There we go. So now it's in there. This line won't come out. The rubber hose won't come out, and we just need to tighten this a little bit more. And then after that, we'll go ahead and bleed it. I'm not gonna bleed this yet until I change the other side real quick. So let me go ahead and change the other side, the passenger side, and then I'll show you guys how to bleed it. I'm not gonna show you how to do the passenger side because it's the same method as this side here. So this, make sure this one's nice and snug in there. There we go. And when you start tying it, you want to use your flare. You want to use your flare wrench, not your regular one, because your regular one can strip this. It is now time to bleed the system. I went ahead and put the new line on the passenger side. Went in pretty smooth, just like the driver's side. So in order to bleed the system, you got to have a few different methods. You could try the two-person method, but I don't have anybody else, so I've always liked to do this method. It's a DIY. First and foremost, we want to make sure we top off the brake fluid reservoir. It didn't lose all the fluid. It went to only half, so that's good. So that means we don't need to bleed the fronts. The fronts are fine because they never got air inside of it. If your fluid drained all the way out of your reservoir, then you might have to bleed your front. But for the most part, we're good on your fronts. So we're gonna bleed the rears. The rears only, and we want to do the farthest away from the reservoir, which is the rear passenger. I'm gonna start on the rear passenger. Whew. And then after the rear passenger is done, we'll switch over to the rear driver. The way I do it is I have a bottle, just a regular Snapple bottle. I drilled it, and then I put this line in there. I believe this hose here is about 1/4 inch, but it just needs to be the size of the bleed nipple because it needs to stick onto it. I also drilled 2 small holes. You can see those 2 other small holes. Those are for air pockets to come back out. So the way you do it for a one-man person, if you guys never seen this method, you do this style, and then you want to make sure you fill up the bottle, or at least the hose is touching some fluid. So pour in some brake fluid in here. I'm using .3, at least enough so that the hose is not sucking in air. Once you put this onto the nipple, you can open your nipple and then run into the cockpit and start pumping your brakes. Once you pump your brakes, it's gonna push air out, but it won't suck in. It won't suck in any air back into the system because it's a pressurized system at this point. And then once you just start pumping, you'll start pumping and you'll see all your air bubbles coming out. And once you have a solid line of brake fluid, you know you're good, and then you can close your valve and then pop this open. So that's kind of how I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna try my best to film it, but if I can't film it, at least you guys understand the concept. So this is the DIY method. Only thing I need to do to this one here is that this line here is a bit short, so I just need to go and find some hose. I know I have extra hose around my garage here, but you want to make sure this hose is long enough because you kind of want this to sit on the floor so it's nice and stable, and then this needs to be long enough to reach your brake nipple. And I believe mine's a little bit shorter, but I'll go ahead and put some blocks on this bottle here so it doesn't tip around and stuff like that. So let's go ahead and move on to the brake calipers. And again, we're doing this with the vehicle still on the ground, no tires removing. Using some .3 fluid. Like I said, you want to make sure you top this off before you start pumping your brakes, because you don't want to introduce air into the system. Once you introduce air into your brake system, you're going to have to bleed all your lines again. So I'm going to pour this all the way to the top. And what I like to do is I like to give it about maybe 5 or 6 pumps and then come back and check it out and then just top it off again. don't be conservative, guys. When you buy your brake fluid, buy the 1 quart because you're gonna use a lot of it. Because you want to get as much air bubbles as you can out of your system. And definitely have some paper towel around your reservoir here so it doesn't go anywhere. So, and you don't have to start your vehicle for this process. You can still do it with the vehicle off. So that's good. Let's go ahead and move on to the rear passenger nipple. I was loosening up the nipple on the passenger caliper and I stripped it because that one hasn't been maintained for a while now, so I think it had corrosion. It's all good. I have a spare. I'm gonna use the vice grip to remove that nipple out and then put in this new nipple so that we can have a nice and fresh one. And then I'll go ahead. I took this off of out of one of my new caliper, which is my spare. So I'll go to the hardware store and find a new one and put that into my new spare. But it's all good. Little things happen. It's very hard to film, so I'm not gonna film myself doing it. But let me go ahead and remove that nipple, and then we'll get back to the program. It's kind of dark, but you guys can see what's gonna happen. I have the new nipple in there, and I'm gonna go push on my brake pedals. Pumping brakes. There it comes. There it goes. So that's the passenger rear. Make sure you check your reservoir and don't run it dry. So it's all nice and clean now. Then what you want to do is take your wrench, which is still on it, it's still on the nipple, and shut that nipple out off. So close that nipple. Be very careful, don't strip it again. Yep, so that nipple's closed now. And we're good to go. And be careful when you take this, when you take the line off the nipple, it wants to squirt all that fluid out because there's still pressure on it. So what I like to do is I like to open it and let it come down from the hose. You see down here? It's gonna want to come down from the hose now. And that's how I like to do it. And then once you take it off the nipple, it's gonna come down instead of squirting up. If that makes sense. Less mess. There it goes. Not sure if you guys caught that, but so we're good on this side. Make sure you check for any leaks, and then after that we'll go and I'm gonna go ahead and top it off again because I think we used about half of the reservoir. Driver's side, I'm gonna start pumping. Pumping now. There it goes. All the bubbles coming out. Give it a few pumps until it's nice and solid. Plenty of brake fluid to mess with. Nice and slow, guys. All right, we are good. Should be nice and good now, yep. And then, like I said, I'm just gonna release the bottom here. Release pressure from the bottom line instead of the top, because if the top's gonna start squirting. There it goes. There it goes. All nice and clean. There's no leaks or anything like that. We'll take it for a test drive. Make sure the brakes feels good. But that's how you do it. I'm gonna run to the parts store and go buy some extra nipples just to have on hand.